Amidst the heat and haze, Clive Caldwell piloted his P-40 Tomahawk over northwest Egypt near the Libyan border. It's August 29, 1941. The war in North Africa raged on, with each side vying for control of the desert skies. Suddenly, two Messerschmitt Bf 109s, one piloted by the up-and-coming ace Werner Schroer, swooped down in a surprise attack. The German fighters unleashed a relentless barrage, wounding Caldwell in the back, shoulder, and leg. The second attack, even more powerful, shattered his canopy, sending splinters and shrapnel right into his face. Loud cannon shells ripped through the fuselage, damaging the right wing. Yet, even as blood murked his vision and pain threatened to cloud his judgment, Caldwell's resolve burned brighter. He refused to back down. Anger and determination surged through him as he turned his battered P-40 toward his attackers. This would ignite the legend of Australia's greatest World War II ace. He would later write in a notebook, quote, "It's your life or theirs. This is war." On September 3, 1939, with only 11 solo flying hours on his logbook and an illegally altered birth certificate, as he was 1 year too old to qualify for fighter training, Australian Clive Caldwell joined the Royal Air Force on the very same day Britain declared war on Germany. While Australia had its separate service, just like many other members of the Commonwealth, many Aussie airmen who sought the thrill of constant active combat chose instead to join the Royal Air Force. After receiving his commission as an acting pilot officer in early 1941, Caldwell's exceptional flying skills quickly earned him a combat assignment in North Africa at the Royal Air Force's Western Desert. Following a brief posting in a British Hurricane unit, he was transferred to the 250th Squadron, one of the first units in the world to convert to the iconic P-40 Tomahawk fighter bomber. With the 250th, Caldwell got his first taste of battle, fighting over the geopolitically important port of Tobruk, cut off and under siege by the Italian army and the legendary German Major General Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps. In early June, acting as wingman for Flying Officer Jack Hamlin, the pilot helped bring down an Italian Cantieri Z-1007 Biz bomber, reportedly the first victory of the P-40, though it was not officially recognized. His first solo victory would not take long to arrive. Caldwell got his chance to shine individually on June 26th when, while escorting a group of Bristol Blenheims on a bombing strike, the pilot spotted a German Messerschmitt Me-109. Quickly, he shot it down with his Tomahawk's M2 Browning machine guns. Unbeknownst to him, his victim was none other than Lieutenant Heinz Schmidt of the Luftwaffe's First Group Fighter Wing 27, one of the highest-scoring pilots in the entire theater. Still, by the time he earned his first win, Caldwell, ever so competitive, had flown over 40 operational sorties and was incredibly dissatisfied with his aerial marksmanship. One scorching day in the North African desert, Clive Caldwell was returning from a patrol when he noticed the sharp shadows his squadron's P-40s cast in the sands below. Seizing the moment, the curious pilot aimed at one shadow and fired. By observing where his shots landed in relation to the moving shadow, he devised a training technique he named shadow shooting. The method allowed Caldwell to perfect deflection shooting, hitting moving targets with precision at various angles and speeds. Once he mastered this strategy, he was able to abandon the use of tracer bullets, which often served only to warn enemy fighters of his presence during attacks. Instead, he relied solely on his refined marksmanship to rapidly strike opponents before they even knew he was there. This technique would prove to be invaluable, as did Caldwell himself. On June 30th, while flying over Fort Capuzzo in the colony of Italian Libya, Caldwell put his newly acquired skill into practice. He took down a Messerschmitt Bf 109 twin-engine fighter, sending it crashing down into the sea. Immediately after this, he spotted a group of Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers it was escorting and shot 2 of them down as well. Not even a week later, during a mission on July 4th, Caldwell was witness to a tragedy when a German pilot shot Pilot Officer Donald Munro, one of his closest friends, while he descended to the ground in his parachute. While controversial, this was common practice amongst airmen from both sides of the fight. From this moment on, Clive's attitude hardened. Now, with a close loss directly related to the war and a personal vendetta, Caldwell was determined to take down as many enemy planes as possible. 3 days later, while flying a mission once again near Tobruk, he shot down his first Italian aircraft, a Fiat G50 Frecce Aero fighter. What followed throughout July and August was a streak of downings and probable kills. 4 Me-109s and another Fiat model later, Regardless of the discrepancies between official squadron logbooks, every other pilot around him was taking notice of his rising record. Upon learning about his shadow shooting method, Caldwell's technique became a standard method of gunnery practice in the Desert Air Force. By then, Australia's newest ace had also earned the nickname Killer due to his relentless habit of strafing any enemy vehicle he saw below while returning from a sortie. Turning the skies into his personal battleground, he was now shooting any enemy airman he spotted parachuting out of their aircraft. To others, the moniker came from his practice of using up ammunition left over at the end of sorties on enemy troop convoys and vehicles. Yet Caldwell despised the nickname. Years later, he said, quote, "There was no bloodlust or anything about it like that. It was just a matter of not wanting them back to have another go at us. I never shot any who landed where they could be taken prisoner." Still, the nickname stuck. Around that time, his commander, Squadron Leader John E. Scholar, noted that while Caldwell was indeed an extraordinarily keen fighter pilot, the individualist man needed to practice teamwork. On August 29, 1941, Caldwell nearly met his maker when he was ambushed by two Me-109s, one being flown by Lieutenant Werner Schroer. Soon to be one of the Luftwaffe's top pilots, with a nearly 60% success rate, the German pilot was barely beginning his career, just like Caldwell. Flying over northwest Egypt, right on its border with Libya, the Germans unleashed their firepower on the Aussie, wounding Caldwell in the back, left shoulder, and leg. Not content yet, the second attack sent a round right through his canopy, shooting splinters and shrapnel into his face. A final duo of cannon shells passed through the fuselage right behind him and damaged the right wing. Hurt but enraged and not willing to give up just yet, in a split second, the Royal Air Force pilot turned on his attackers and shot one of the Me-109s, causing it to burn down in flames. Shocked and probably scared after the sudden turn of events, Pilot Schroer hastily retired, but was credited with the Curtiss as his sixth victory. Eventually, the German would become one of the Luftwaffe's greatest and most feared aces. With his engine on fire, Caldwell extinguished it and flew his Tomahawk back to his airbase. Once safe, mechanics counted over 100 rounds and 5 shells peppered all over the aircraft. For his courage during the August 29th events, pilot Clive Caldwell was promoted to flight lieutenant and awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Soon enough, after recovery from his injuries, Clive Caldwell took down 2 more Me-109s and damaged another in late September. By then, aware of the aggressive and relentless Aussie in the RAF, the Germans gave the pilot a nickname of their own, Tiger. Promoted to the rank of flight commander, Caldwell resumed his scoring during Operation Crusader, the British offensive intended to relieve its forces, cut off and besieged in Tobruk. On November 23rd, he engaged 4 Me-109s over Behaira and shot down the lead Messerschmitt. Its pilot, Captain Wolfgang Lippert, was a powerful commander and Knight's Cross holder who had just downed a Hurricane for his 30th victory. While the German was to bail out, he was struck on his vertical stabilizer, causing injuries that would lead to his demise later in a prison camp. A few days later, Caldwell damaged an Me-109 and reportedly downed 2 more the same week. On December 5th, the Axis launched another strike on Tobruk. Caldwell, flying his usual Tomahawk, was leading a patrol when, at 11:40 a.m., they received a radio warning of a large enemy formation approaching from the northwest. Caldwell directed 250th Squadron to fall in line behind him, while the 112th Squadron engaged the enemy fighters. As they approached the enemy, Caldwell targeted a section of Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers from the rear. Then, at 300 yards, he opened fire on the leader of a trio, slightly misjudging the deflection, but hitting the second and third aircraft. One burst into flames immediately, while the other trailed smoke before igniting and losing altitude rapidly. Emboldened by this, Caldwell closed in on another section of Ju-87s. From below and behind, he opened fire at close range, causing one to dive steeply and crashed in flames. He quickly shifted his aim, unleashing another burst at close range. The enemy aircraft caught fire and plummeted to the ground. Within minutes, Caldwell had decimated the formation, bringing down 5 Ju-87s, making him an ace in one day. In addition, some of the pilots under him also contributed to the Stuka party, shooting down an additional 5. Caldwell continued his desert rampage all throughout the rear of the year, against Me-109s and Ju-97s, shooting down 3 aircraft, damaging 4, and 1 probable victory. A final success in 1941 came on Christmas Eve, when he took down yet another Luftwaffe ace, Airbo Graf von Kaganek, who had 69 air victories under his belt. Christmas Day 1941 was filled with celebration in Tobruk, as the 8th Army drove its Axis besiegers back and relieved the town. However, on the other side of the world, Japanese carrier planes had just attacked the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. With conflict brewing in the Pacific, the war wasn't over yet. With the fresh new year and still in Africa, Caldwell was given command of the 112th Squadron, which had just received an improved model Curtiss Kitty Hawk, complete with its distinctive shark mouth marking. While getting accustomed to his own model, the newly promoted squadron leader also found time to damage more Me-109s in dogfights. On February 10th, 12 volunteer trainee pilots from Poland joined the squadron. Happily, Caldwell took them under his wing and taught them everything he knew. On the 21st, in an encounter with 6 Me-109s, Caldwell took down one, but the Germans shot down 3 of the Allied Kitty Hawks. Caldwell continued his streak throughout the rest of the month, shooting down 1 and damaging 5. On another patrol sortie on March 13th, Caldwell downed another German model. Still, his win was overshadowed when 2 of his men became detached from the formation and were attacked by the legendary Master Sergeant Otto Schultz. Thankfully, both pilots survived. The Polish and the squadron got their revenge the next day when their leader downed a Mach-E C-202 and shared another claim with another pilot. Pilot Clive Caldwell's final win in Africa came on April 23rd. By the time he left the theater later that year, Air Vice Marshal Arthur Tedder, the Air Operations Commander in North Africa and the Middle East, described him as, quote, an excellent leader and a first-class shot. Overall, Caldwell claimed 22 victories while in North Africa, flying 550 hours in more than 300 operational sorties. Most importantly, the pilot had learned the value of teamwork and leadership. Meanwhile, Australia faced a new threat, as the same Japanese combined fleet that had attacked Pearl Harbor mauled their own Port Darwin. After a brief respite in the homeland, Caldwell was promoted to wing commander and became the leader of the Spitfire-equipped 1st Fighter Wing at Port Darwin in January 1943, where, despite a reduction in Japanese air attacks, the Aussie returned just in time for a renewed campaign of harassment. By then, the Japanese had a new weapon, the Mitsubishi A6M0 long-range carrier-based fighter aircraft. The first major clash encounter with them came on March 2, 1943, when 9 Mitsubishi G4M bombers, escorted by 21 Zeros, encountered 12 Spitfires, led by Caldwell, 30 miles west-northwest of Port Charles. Flown by Japanese aces, the enemy put up one hell of a fight. Meanwhile, the Spitfire pilots faced a myriad of technical issues, especially their 20mm Hispano cannons freezing due to temperature differences between the ground and altitude. Nevertheless, Caldwell shot down a Zero and a Nakajima B5N2K torpedo bomber. During the first few months, the wing initially suffered high losses, mainly due to the inexperience of its pilots and mechanical problems. Still, one final air victory for the legendary Tiger occurred on August 17, 1943, when the Aussie shot down a Mitsubishi Ki-46 Dyna. Later in the year, Caldwell was assigned to Mildura to lead an operational training unit and also received a Distinguished Service Order. By 1944, as Japanese forces retreated from Darwin, Caldwell returned to command another fighter wing, this time equipped with Spitfire Mark 8 aircraft. In January 1945, Air Commodore Arthur H. Cobby selected Caldwell to lead an Australian task force for the final offensive against Japan. However, the Allied command reassigned the Australians to support operations in the East Indies. Caldwell and 7 officers objected to the minor role, leading to the Moritai Mutiny in April 1945, where they protested the dangerous and strategically worthless ground attack missions. An investigation cleared Caldwell and the other mutineers, but resulted in 3 senior officers being relieved of their commands. Before the mutiny, Caldwell was involved in an alcohol racket at Moritai, leading to a court-martial in January 1946 and a reduction in rank. He left the service that February. Clive Caldwell, Australia's greatest World War II ace, achieved 28.5 confirmed kills, making him the highest-scoring Australian pilot. His victories included aircraft from Germany, Italy, and Japan, with 22 in North Africa and 6.5 in the Pacific. Caldwell's fearless combat legacy remains unmatched in Australian aviation history.